Folks, if you're just joining us, we're speaking with none other than the Governor General of Canada. That's right, folks, very special guest. He has been most kind with his time to allow us to come all the way to Rideau Hall, my first time, and I am just amazed. It's just a beautiful place. David Johnston, how are you today, sir?
Well, welcome to Rideau Hall. This is the home of the people of Canada, Brent. It's great to have you here.
It is wonderful to be here, sir, and it's wonderful to be here with you, particularly. Can we jump in right away? There's a lot of folks listening right now that have no idea of the circumstances surrounding the Governor General, what your responsibilities are, sir.
Well, I'm the Queen's representative in Canada, and I have a package of responsibilities that begin with the constitutional ones, signing into law the orders and bills from Parliament and the various instructions that come. Secondly, I function as the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of Canada. That's a symbolic role, but one about which I'm very proud. From time to time, one deals with constitutional issues, dissolution and prorogation of Parliament, swearing in of cabinets, engaging new prime ministers, things of that sort. One also has a function of serving as a liaison with the Prime Minister, in the words of Badgett, to encourage, to advise, and to warn with respect to matters of the day. Then there is a role that has to do with honors and awards, where one recognizes outstanding Canadians in a variety of ways, from Order of Canada to military service to police and fire service to bravery to citizenship and so on. And finally, an area that to some extent is in the discretion of the Governor General, and that is particular themes. And in my case, it is a smart and caring nation, a call to service, and within that broad heading, there are three pillars. One is family and children, the second is philanthropy and volunteerism, and the third would appeal to your audience, and that is innovation and learning.
Let's talk about that latter one, if you don't mind, sir. Let's jump into education right away. I had the distinct pleasure of having a soldier from Afghanistan on my show. His name is Ray Weiss. He's written a book called A Line in the Sand. He's a surgeon from Sudbury, Ontario, sir. And he's brought something very unique to combat medicine, and that is ultrasound, and it saves so many lives. When he was on the show, he talked specifically about education, and he said the best way to beat the Taliban or any adversary around the world is through education. Why is education so important to you, sir?
Well, Afghanistan is a very good place to start because 10 years ago there were 700,000 Afghan children in schools, almost none of them women. Today there are 5 million. 10 years later, about a third of those women. So on that particular dimension, one has seen enormous progress. Now there's a long ways to go, but one can be very heartened by seeing that take root. More generally, education is the foundation of so much else. I think this country, Canada, is precious. And one of the reasons it's so precious is I don't think any country in the world today or in history has worked harder than Canada has at equality of opportunity. And that is particularly shown through our public education system. It's not absolute equality of opportunity. There are still barriers, but those barriers are less than most jurisdictions around the world. And it comes out of our history. Almost all of us came here with nothing but the shirts on our back. Immigrants going back 10, 20,000 years to the first Aboriginal people, in the last 400 years European people, in the last 50 or 100 years people from all around the world. Almost all have come with very few possessions and no particular status, but with a fervent desire that the lives of their children shall be better than their own. And that has happened in very large measure through a public education system that has provided that equality of opportunity. That's a great achievement, I think, of Canadian values, and it's one that I think we all should work very hard to continue and improve.
I agree wholeheartedly, sir. And you speak with a lot of passion about the country, and that is something I admire because I am very passionate about this country as well. I know the closest woman in my life is an immigrant to this country, and she came from a country, Iran, that there's lots of persecution going on, and she loves the freedom here. We have the best country in the world, without question. I want to go back to that passion and education in your own life, sir, if we could. What led you, what gravitated you towards the law and justice?
Well, my life, I think, has been populated by extraordinary mentors, teachers, coaches, etc. If we had 100 hours, I would give you 100 or 1,000 stories of individuals who affected me. I was born in Sudbury. I grew up in Sault Ste. Marie. I had the wonderful opportunity to study at an outstanding university in the United States for 4 years, an outstanding university in the United Kingdom for 2 years, studying law. Never had any expectation of living in any other place than Canada, a country I love, but those external experiences I think were helpful, and then have spent my life as a university professor and a university administrator in Canada. Why have I found my way through this particular journey? I think it's just very significant individuals at different junctures in my life who've provided advice, challenges, demands, etc., that have led me to do what I've done. The law, I suppose, is something I've come to love. The rule of law is part of that Canadian value system that I was speaking about. Provides the framework within which we can have that equality of opportunity and that desire for excellence. One definition of law is the rules that make people free. That sounds like a contradiction, but without law, without order, there is chaos. And ours is a society, I think, that has learned to use the rule of law, 1,000 years of constitutional history, to provide a degree of freedom for our people and a collective responsibility that makes us a very attractive country.
Absolutely. I want to talk now a little bit about the various aspects of this country. For example, a lot of students that are listening right now from coast to coast to coast don't vote. And I'm always of the opinion that democracy is this precious little gem that we have to protect and be actually proactive with. Can you talk about maybe perhaps inspiring folks to get out there and voice their opinion through the power of the vote?
Well, it's a theme I love. I've had the pleasure of presiding over many university convocations for 26 years as a university president. And I used to end my convocation remarks to the students by saying, this is a wonderful day in your life. You should be proud of your achievements. You've done well. You've earned a degree through hard work and your intelligence, etc. But recognize another side of that. You are the product of a very special situation. The public education system of Canada, supported in large measure by the taxpayers. And the taxpayers have made an investment in you. Now you have a responsibility to them, and that is to use the gifts that you have, the education you have, to help to direct your society. You begin by exercising your franchise in national, in provincial, in regional, local elections for school boards and so on. And I'm not here to tell you how you vote or what particular political philosophy you adopt, but to recognize that that is a responsibility of citizenship for you, not just a right of citizenship. And it's a responsibility that comes from the fact that your fellow citizens have invested a lot in you and prize your judgment.
Something I would like also you to address, sir, is something that's near and dear to my heart as well as I know to your heart as well. And that is our Canadian troops, both abroad and at home. The wonderful, incredible Canadian troops that make it all possible for us to have this glorious country called Canada.
Well, I've come to have great admiration through my new responsibilities because I've seen them firsthand. Let me just leave you with a couple of observations from my first trip to Afghanistan, which was, I guess, within the first month of installation. I was with a senior military officer from the United States who was the liaison between the Canadian troops there in Kandahar province in a very challenging situation and the American surge troops that had been brought in to bolster the situation. He said, I have two things to tell you. I've seen a lot of military people from different countries around the world over my career of 40 or 50 years. I have two things to tell you about your Canadian soldiers. One, from a professional point of view, from a military point of view, they are second to none in how they perform, in their leadership, in their training, in their execution of their responsibilities. The second thing continues to surprise me, and I have never seen it in a military theater. He said their ability to relate to civilians and civilian reconstruction I have not seen before in a military situation. Somehow they can relate to civilians from your own country, civilians from international aid organizations, and civilians in Afghanistan, those school teachers we were speaking about earlier, of getting the schools rebuilt and functioning. That just normally doesn't occur, that ability to bridge from a hostile situation to a reconstruction situation. Said, I think it must have something to do with the basic values in your country and the kind of people that you attract into military careers, that they carry those values with them.
It's pretty impressive, isn't it, sir? Only two more questions for you, sir. The next question I have for you deals with philanthropy and volunteerism. I understand you're heading to Toronto in just a couple of weeks to take part in a home building.
Yes.
Could we talk a little bit about that great initiative? And bravo, sir.
Well, I love it. It's the Habitat for Humanity, which is a flourishing Canadian organization. Actually, is headquartered for Canada in the region from which I come, Waterloo County. And I love that manifestation of philanthropy because I use an expression, barn raising, constantly, that comes from Waterloo County, which was settled by European settlers in 1800. They were Mennonite people who came from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And my wife and I live on a farm, a 100-acre Mennonite farm, about 11 minutes away from the University of Waterloo, where I have worked for almost 12 years. And our neighbors are horse and buggy people, they're Mennonite people. And they have pioneered the notion of barn raising. And that very simply means that when a newcomer comes into the community, all the neighbors gather around and help that newcomer build the barn. And when a fire occurs, or a storm and the barn is destroyed, they all come together to help that neighbor rebuild his or her life and the life of their family. Now that's a pioneer metaphor, but it is a metaphor that continues to operate in Waterloo County of neighbor helping neighbor, community helping community. And so we come to Habitat for Humanity, which of course is attempting to do that across this country and across the world. It is to provide homes for people who otherwise would not have a home, to get them onto a step from which their life can be managed in a more effective fashion. And it's a wonderful manifestation of help and caring for a neighbor that really comes out of a Canadian tradition that's very precious. I think you manifest that more broadly into the smart and caring nation. That my hope is by 2017, when we celebrate our 150th anniversary, that this notion of helping one's neighbor will not simply be a switch that you kind of flick off or flick on when the opportunity presents itself, but to be seen as a mainstream feature of Canadian citizenship. That's who we are. That's what we do.
Precisely.
We help our neighbor.
Precisely. That's wonderful, sir. Thank you so much for that. Final question. Quote unquote, can you tell the folks a little bit about love means never having to say you're sorry?
Well, that comes from the novel Love Story, and my change with that line is love means always making it better. The motto of the Order of Canada is they desire a better country. And so I prefer my version, I think, to Eric Siegel's version. But Eric was a professor at Harvard when I was a student there, professor of classics. He wrote novels like Love Story, and he would often use parts of characters who were there and involve them in a story. And I played hockey, and he had me as a character in his novel Love Story. Most of the time he would change the names of his characters. One of them in Love Story is a wonderful guy named Eugene Kanasowicz, outstanding hockey player. He changed Gene's name to Kenaway, but he kept my name as it was, and so there I was as a minor character in that story.
That's wonderful, sir. Listen, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your day.
Thank you so much.
Talking with the students right across the
Great to be with you and your viewers.
Thank you so much, sir. All the very best to you.
Pleasure.